This one right here. This article is in regards to the Congressman Warren Davidson introducing an act called Keep Your Coins, and this is, I don't want to say it's directly tied to, but it's definitely influenced by everything going on in Canada right now with the Freedom. Is it called the Freedom Convoy or the Freedom Blockade?
Freedom Convoy,
whatever.
I think, whatever.
Yeah, and all this stuff going on with Canada, trying to, they're starting to limit not only GoFundMe campaigns and crowdfunding, but also now they, as we mentioned yesterday in yesterday's news stories, that they're actually saying anybody that's involved in a protest of any kind can have their bank seized, they can have their car insurance canceled, they can the cryptocurrencies are now I just saw an article this morning, a couple crypto Bitcoin transactions were completely blocked, which I'm actually confused as to how they did that, but we'll have to look into that.
Heck?
And then the biggest story of them all, and although this is a softly big story, if you really look into it, this is a big story. Warren Buffett. Now, for anybody that doesn't know who Warren Buffett is, before, and I was talking with, I think, Smay about this morning, before the last, I'd say 15, 20 years, and actually even somewhat of the time into that, the richest man in the world for over a decade, or like maybe, I don't know how long, but he's been in the top 5 or more richest men in the world for probably going on 20 plus years.
Yep.
And he did this through traditional investing, very scrupulous, conservative trading. And he has been one of the biggest opponents of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency since it's come out, saying, I'm not sure if I'm not going to misquote him, but the point being here, this headline is showing. What's that?
He did call it rat poison.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to quote. I wasn't sure if it was him or Peter Schiff, but yeah, he called investing in crypto and Bitcoin akin to eating rat poison. So Warren Buffett has invested $1 billion into basically a fintech band called a brand/bank called Neobank. And this bank, while it's not directly an investment in Bitcoin, this is a fintech bank. Basically financial technology bank. They're very forward facing to crypto. They actually even offer crypto and Bitcoin trading. So in part with this, he's also dumped Visa and MasterCard stocks. And what's interesting about this is I feel like this is a soft way of him slowly making that change so it doesn't look like he has huge egg on his face. Because rather than going completely against everything he said, no, okay, he's not necessarily into Bitcoin, but okay, he just invested $1 billion into a Bitcoin bank. So I'm curious what your thoughts are on that, Jeb, and especially what Smay's thoughts and what do you all think about all these headlines? This is a start in that tailwind, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, he said that Bitcoin is rat poison squared and that you were delusional for investing in cryptocurrency, and now he's dumping Visa and MasterCard because he knows that they're going to really have a lot of competition when Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency start taking off. The funny thing about Warren Buffett is that, and this is something I actually deeply respect about the man, just because I disagree with his stance on cryptocurrencies doesn't mean I don't respect his abilities. He was not born a super rich person. He built this. More power to him for building his $80 billion plus portfolio. You can disagree with his politics or his stance or whatever, but he did do that. More respect to him for that. He didn't invest in tech stocks. He built his portfolio on principles, and that's something that I think we can all learn from. We build our portfolio on principles, not on price. We build it on principles. We built it on purpose. We built it on people. We build it on those things, not on price. Warren Buffett invested in the rails, and he invested in industry. He didn't invest in tech stocks. In fact, he basically missed out on a lot of the internet bubble. He missed out on a lot of the internet stocks. He missed out on the FANG stocks. He didn't get into any of that, which goes to show you that you can make a lot of money without being involved in the next hottest commodity. It shows you that the grass isn't greener on the other side. The grass truly is greener where you water it, and he watered it. He built Berkshire Hathaway and built that into a $250 billion asset under management real estate empire. I have a lot of respect for Warren Buffett, although I do disagree with his stance on cryptocurrency, but it looks like he might be starting to disagree with his own stance on cryptocurrency because he might realize, wait a second, I missed out on the internet. I ain't doing that again because Bitcoin and cryptocurrency is the future. Yeah. So Tim, I want to ask you your take on Warren Buffett, and do you think that this is really a turnaround? And then I also want to take it a little bit back to the whole, future of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency and governance. Do you think Bitcoin and cryptocurrency is really going to help us as these governments start to crack down more and more on our different civil liberties?
Well, the first one, let's start with Warren Buffett.
Yeah.
If it is true that he has changed his tune, hats off to Warren Buffett. We should never be upset when someone who used to be a naysayer changes their mind. We should welcome them with open arms. Before we do that, though, he did not invest in Bitcoin. He invested in a bank that is Bitcoin friendly. So let's see this develop. I would be really interested to hear the next time Warren Buffett publicly speaks about Bitcoin, what his tune sounds like. But I just want to caution people, because people read headlines and they get really excited about things before they find out details. Let's make sure that Warren Buffett didn't invest in this bank for some other reason. There's not necessarily a case that says he loves Bitcoin now. It looks like it's going that way, but that's not what happens. So that's the first thing about Warren Buffett. As far as the government, this is what we have been talking about for a while, and here's what I will say actually is the great news. Everything we've seen happen, despite the fact that we haven't seen the price of Bitcoin go up here in the last month or two, what we have seen is adoption, and we've seen interest grow like crazy. And I think the price can take dips. It's going to happen. You know, if we think that there will never be another dip again in Bitcoin, it's just nothing but up and to the right. That's not how it's going to work. But I do think it's getting out of hand where governments could actually have full control, because what they're going to actually start doing is causing people to go against the laws. Like they might come and put crazy regulation, but crypto's a hard one to regulate.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just saying, like I think that crypto, and specifically Bitcoin, is rearing up to become more powerful than what governments could control, and that's why you see things like Russia, in a matter of like literally 2 weeks, go from saying we don't want anything to do with crypto to maybe we'll discuss allowing some mining, to now saying, you know what, we might actually let it be used as currency.
So here's the deal. Here's what you guys need to understand. There is a very major existential threat to modern democracy going on right now. And this is something Charles talked about in our interview. I keep referencing this interview because it was so great. If you haven't seen it, you need to go back and watch it. He also talked about it on his interview over on Dan's channel, Crypto Capital Venture. There is a very dangerous thing whenever a free nation, both sides of the aisle do not trust their systems, and they don't believe that their voice is being heard. Because when people have a grievance against the government, you better believe that their voice will be heard. And that's unfortunate when you start shutting down their ability to be heard. By the way, what I'm saying is bipartisan. I'm talking about left and right. I'm not making a political statement in this. I'm just saying both sides in America, in Canada, in the Eurozone, all of them, both sides feel like they're not being heard. Both sides feel like that they're not being able to have their voices expressed. Both sides feel that they're not able to be listened to. Both sides feel that way. That is incredibly dangerous. And the reason that that is happening is because trust in our systems has broken down. And this kind of stuff that's going on, we're protesting on either side. I'm not making a political statement at all about what's going on in Canada, what's going on anywhere in the last 3 or 5 years. What I am saying, both sides feel like they're being silenced. Cryptocurrency, in my eyes, is the only way that you can fix that, because it's the only way, as Charles talked about, to bring inclusive accountability into our systems. Nobody trusts the voting system anymore. On both sides. Nobody trusts the ability to freely assemble anymore. On both sides. Nobody trusts the ability to speak freely anymore. On both sides. This is a bipartisan issue, and as I said, it is an existential threat to modern democracy. You compound that on top of the fact that the U.S. dollar is losing its hegemony, it is losing its world reserve currency status, and if that occurs, the United States loses its ability to be a global superpower because they lose control of the monetary system that runs the whole world. So there's a lot of instability coming in the next 10 years. That doesn't mean that we should walk with a heart of fear, though. That doesn't mean that we should walk with anxiety. We should walk with peace, knowing that we have a way out of that. One is Jesus, and two, here in the world, we have cryptocurrency that can help us with the actual material problems of this world. So I want you guys not walking in fear. I'm not trying to spread FUD. I'm not trying to fearmonger, but it is very important that you understand that there are a lot of problems with the way our world is running right now. Cryptocurrency, in my eyes, provides basically the only solution. Kelly, what were you going to say really quickly, and then I want to get Smay's take on this before we jump into TA.
I just wanted to say that, and I actually saw a comment in chat that essentially said that who cares essentially what this older person is doing, you know, they're not going to be around longer anyway. But here's why it's important. People like Warren Buffett are a major signal to the industry. And so when you have people like at this level, and also it's true, Charles Hoskinson said it as well, about people that are, coming up towards the last few decade or so of their life, making our laws that, for future of technology. But that's why it's important when you have people in their same peer group, like Warren Buffett, start to even get Bitcoin exposure through, like even if people are investing in GBTC, Grayscale or any of these stocks that are Bitcoin facing, but they're not actually getting involved in Bitcoin, by nature of starting to have those dominoes fall and having the sentiment start to shift amongst that peer group also changes the way the laws and the regulations are going to be made. So therefore it will make an easier path for the younger people when the adoption really starts to take off. So it is important of these all different age groups, regardless of where we're at in society, regardless of what your predilections are on politics or age or any of these things. It's all relevant because they're all tied together and how regulations are made and then how the adoption is carried out in the long run. I think that's why this is such a big story.
Absolutely. So we're going to jump into some Bitcoin technical analysis here in a second. But first, I want to throw it to Smay. Smay, what is your opinion on the way that the governments are moving right now? And do you think that cryptocurrency provides the answer to some of our biggest threats?
Yes. And I think the question there you just asked, what are governments doing? Governments are still trying to scramble to find a way that they're going to be able to maintain control. And whatever that means is whether they go after stable coins to make it more difficult to trade and avoid taxes and stuff like that. They're going to start there. And then they're going to go to find ways to adopt it in a way that they can, potentially try to control it, or maybe even introduce their own CBDCs and say, well, look, this is crypto too, so, come and use our crypto, I think there's all these different routes they're going to try to take before they realize and they throw their hands in the air and they say, well, actually, we can't really do much about this. It's kind of an unmovable train at this point. And I think that's kind of the idea of when we as a people make a decision, we don't have to just necessarily wait and sit for our government to do it for us. We can, as a community, start. And I love what Charles said, and he was saying it in terms of like when you're starting something like a project like Cardano. He's saying you start small. You build the blockchain for a county clerk in Texas to be able to make marriage certificates on the blockchain, and then you move up to a city, and then you move up to a government, and you go by layers like an onion. And I think ultimately it's like, hey, we don't need to wait for the government to tell us that we can use crypto. We can start using crypto in our communities. We can start, if you're a small business, start accepting Bitcoin, stuff like that. And you start to do that. And then next thing you know, half the economy is running on Bitcoin already. And then they're kind of like, oh, well, we kind of got to do something about this. So.
Yeah, well, that's the beautiful thing about cryptocurrency. We built it and we didn't ask anybody's permission. And now the government's trying to come in and say, oh, wait a second. You didn't ask us if we could do that. And you're like, you're dang right we didn't. We got 250 million people using it now because it solves a problem that was your responsibility to fix and that you squandered away because you would rather inflate the crap out of the US dollar to fund your political bills so that you can get reelected. That's why Bitcoin and cryptocurrency was created, to put the financial sovereignty back in our hands rather than in the hands of people that don't have our best interest at heart. Hey, you made it to the end of the video. If you enjoyed this video, you should definitely consider subscribing because we're trying to help you become financially free in these cryptocurrency markets. And also, consider following us on Twitter @CryptoJeb for more updates on the price of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. Peace.